We'll hear at this COP about turning ambition into results, lifting promises off the page, getting from intentions to implementation. We'll hear about the importance of accountability, of transparency, and why human needs must be at the heart of everything we do. This mantra is reverberating in these halls. Implementation, implementation, implementation. I want to talk about what I think delivery of implementation means. Delivery is not a singular moment. Delivery is a compilation of many moments added together that make change. That is to say, delivery does not start and end over these 2 weeks. Delivery is about infusing the essence of climate action into the hearts and minds of every single one of the 8 billion of us. This includes our hearts and minds that drive us as individuals must be constantly making choices which have climate action at their core. We need to transform every sector of our economies and do it rapidly. So while these discussions may represent a good start, it's only the beginning of our journey. It's a journey that requires different mindsets, one the Egyptian presidency has captured well in terms of their vision for COP27. One that moves us away from thinking about the formal and informal processes, that they're somehow mutually exclusive, and towards getting the formal stream to flow with the informal stream so that they're moving in one powerful direction. That means bringing credibility and accountability. This includes ensuring everyone follows through on their promises. The Global Climate Action Portal is instrumental to that. Parties tasked us to deliver the portal, and we did. We will look forward to getting from tracking pledges to measuring implementations and outcomes. To do so, we need clear standards to assess the net zero commitments of non-state actors and measure progress. And this means progress on your part. I urge you to use this event and the next few days to begin bridging our existing gaps, seizing the opportunities that await us, and establishing a clear and credible process to put all climate action on the track that science has identified and that humanity and nature demands. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Executive Secretary. I would like now to invite the Master of Ceremony, Ms. Bogolo, who will lead us into the second session of the event, moving to the non-party side. Please, you have the floor.
Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, my name is Bogolo Joy Kinowendo, and I am a Special Advisor and Africa Director for the UN High-Level Climate Change Champions, Climate Champions. And it is indeed my greatest honor to be guiding your session here today. And in recognizing the kind words of encouragement from the COP27 presidents and the Executive Secretary of the UNFCCC, I would like now to call upon a young voice to get us started, and I am delighted to welcome an inspiring young climate activist to address us basing on her experience of running an international nonprofit with over 8,000 volunteers in 40+ countries. She is also the youngest member of the inaugural United Nations Youth Advisory Group on Climate Change, and she is here to share with us her perspective. Ladies and gentlemen, please do welcome Sophia Kiani.
When it comes to climate action, some governments and business leaders are saying one thing, but doing another. Simply put, they are lying. Those are not my words, or the words of another youth climate activist. No, those are the words of the UN Secretary General, Antonio Guterres. A year ago in Glasgow, Vanessa Nakate, a Ugandan climate activist, stood on a stage like this and said that young people around the world do not believe in the promises being made by world leaders at every COP. But she begged you to prove us wrong. In response, leaders made bold promises to finally act and left Glasgow claiming that they had kept 1.5 alive. But keeping 1.5 alive requires that we have no new gas, oil, or coal development. These are not the demands of a youth activist. That's a 2021 assessment by the International Energy Agency. It's a year later, and hundreds of new oil and gas leases have been released by some of the richest nations on the planet. Through their actions, politicians and business leaders are killing any hope at preserving 1.5. Last week's UNEP emissions gap report showed us that even if all the promises which governments have made were kept, we would still be on track for a global temperature rise of between 2.4 to 2 degrees Celsius. The plans are woefully inadequate. Again, those are not my words. Those are the words of the United Nations Environmental Program. 7 years after the Paris Climate Agreement, there is still not a single country that has a climate commitment compatible with 1.5. Meanwhile, over 7 million people are dying prematurely every single year from breathing toxic air from the burning of fossil fuels. Those are not the words of a youth activist. Those are the words of the World Health Organization. If the world took the action to meet WHO air quality guidelines, we would save millions of lives, $8 trillion, and drive real climate action. But what do leaders do?
Excellences, Monsieur le Secrétaire Général des Nations Unies,
صاحب السعادة الأمين العام للأمم المتحدة، الأمين العام للاتفاقية الإطارية لتغير المناخ، السيد رئيس مؤتمر الأطراف 27، أصحاب السعادة، رؤساء الدول والحكومات، أفخر بوجودي هنا معكم ونيابة عن بلدي مدغشقر. أود أن أتقدم بخالص التهاني لفخامة الرئيس عبد الفتاح السيسي رئيس جمهورية مصر العربية وللشعب المصري على استضافة هذه القمة لمؤتمر الأطراف 27 لحماية كوكبنا. وإذ ننزعج من التدهور السريع للبيئة، فقادة العالم قد قرروا عقد القمة الأولى في عام 1995، وبعد مرور 27 عاما نحن القادة نلتقي بشكل سنوي من أجل أن نركز على نضالنا لمكافحة التغير المناخي، من أجل أيضا اعتماد القرارات لخفض غازات الدفيئة. وفي هذا العام نحن في المؤتمر 27 وعلينا أيضا أن نعكس جدول الأعمال وأن نحققه في عام 2045، أي بعد 23 عاما سنحتفي بالذكرى 50 لمؤتمر الأطراف. وهناك سؤال يطرح نفسه: هل استطعنا حماية الكوكب؟ وما هو الإرث الذي سنتركه للأجيال المستقبلية؟ الوضع اليوم في تدهور كبير، نرى التصحر وموجات الجفاف في المناطق القاحلة التي تؤدي إلى المجاعات، ونرى
et de plus en plus violents, les multiples inondations détruisant les infrastructures et les cultures, les nombreux feux de forêt ravageant nos
and crops. Our planet is burning, our ecosystems are deteriorating. Our actions, however, and funding is not aligned with this. Our people are suffering, and they're the first victims. Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished leaders, the consequences of climate change are devastating, and it is past time to take action. We have made the observations and findings. We need to act now. The commitments taken at COP26 should be implemented. We need to speed up their implementation. The topic chosen for COP27, Together for Implementation, encourages us all to make sure that this is not just a slogan. This has to be implemented. This is an emergency. Out of the $100 billion of commitments per year, how many of them have actually been dispersed? Despite its status as a vulnerable country, Madagascar was one of the first 5 countries to initiate the REDD+ mechanism. Our national adaptation plan has been in operation since 2021. We recently adopted our second plan. We are joining our voice to those of all of the nations that are being impacted by climate disruption in order to accelerate and facilitate the release of green climate funds. With our emergency plan, Madagascar has invested in innovative projects to build a just, clean, and sustainable future. Our great island has 5,603 kilometers of coastline. We have immense potential with our mangroves, and we have the ambition of becoming the model country for blue carbon. We do not have the right to fail here. Together we need to commit in favor of sustainable development for a better humanity. Ladies and gentlemen, here I have one thing to say to you. We hope that God blesses our planet. We thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Your Excellency. It is my pleasure to welcome His Excellency, Mr. Abdalfa Al-Burhan Abdrahman, Head of the Transitional Sovereignty Council of the Republic of Sudan. Your Excellency, you have the floor.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim.
In the name of God, the Compassionate and the Merciful. Good afternoon to you all. God bless you. It is a pleasure for me at the outset to extend my thanks to His Excellency President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi through him, we would also like to thank the government and people of the Arab Republic of Egypt for hosting this important global conference. We thank them for the warm welcome that we are so accustomed to. I would also like to extend my deep thanks to the organizers of this important international event. Distinguished participants, climate change has become a major environmental issue of concern to the world as a whole. Indeed, its effects are directly felt by all sectors of life for people and their livelihoods. Sudan, like other states, is affected by climate change. This has led to waves of displacement and internal movements of population, as well as regional movements of populations, causing fighting over resources between the communities affected by climate change. The Paris Agreement on climate change is characteristically inclusive, thus implementable in terms of its objectives, which aim at strengthening the global response to climate change, this threat that is very alive in the context of sustainable development and poverty alleviation, among others. Sudan has great hopes in the implementation of the Paris Agreement. It is adopting development policies that contribute to cutting emissions in line with the SDGs. Sudan is one of the most affected states by climate change, especially in vital and productive sectors such as agriculture, water, health, and food security. The rain-based traditional agricultural sector has shrunk. Two-thirds of the people of Sudan rely on it for food. Natural grazing lands have also been damaged, leading to tensions between the settled and nomadic communities and the agricultural workers. There's also a loss in biodiversity within forests and nature reserves. This has caused waves of displacement and migration, in turn causing environmental degradation. Sudan remains committed to implementing the provisions of UNFCCC and all instruments of the Paris Summit, as well as the Kyoto Protocol. Thus, Sudan prepared and approved its NDC document. It submitted it to the Secretariat of the UNFCCC on the 22nd of September 2022. Its NDC includes projects for both mitigation and adaptation. On the regional level, Sudan participated in the Regional Ministerial Conference on Environment, Migration and Climate Change in July 2022. This conference adopted the Kampala Declaration on Environment, Migration and Climate Change. As current chair of IGAD, Sudan took part in drawing up the regional strategy on climate change for IGAD states. This strategy was approved in Mombasa, Kenya, in October of this year. In the same month, Sudan headed the Regional Conference for Land and Conflict. In this conference, the Kampala Declaration was adopted, another declaration in Kampala on land and conflict. This demonstrates the commitment of Sudan to these regional and international conventions and instruments on climate change. In conclusion, I would like to reiterate our thanks and appreciation to the host state, the sister state of Egypt, and all states, governments and organizations contributing to the success of this conference. It is our hope that this COP will be able to achieve its objectives. I thank you for your kind attention.
Thank you, Your Excellency. It is my pleasure to welcome His Excellency, Mr. Hassan Sheikh Mohamud, President of Somalia.
التي تربطه باستثمارات العمل المناخي والاستثمار في الطبيعة. وهناك أمثلة كثيرة من بليز وسيشلز ومؤخرا من باربادوس. هناك مثال رائع يربط الNDCs بالKPIs وكيف يمكن أن نجلب التمويل للدول متوسطة الدخل، ونحن نعمل على هذا. في هذا اليوم بدأنا هذا مع صديقي العزيز بجواري. بدأنا هذا بإطلاق مبادرة بشأن سوق الكربون في أفريقيا، حضره 4 رؤساء من أفريقيا والعديد من الوزراء، بوعد أن يكون هناك ابتكارات مالية.
There would be financial innovations to serve the poor and not the rich, and they are emphasizing localization. The last point I want to share with you, when we talk about funding, we need to take into consideration the implementation frameworks, and a few weeks ago we supported the work of the Secretary General and the Minister of Environment and Climate for Canada, along with a group of experts to give us an idea about what succeeded, what did not, what are the standards we can try to avoid through greenwashing. I agree with Mr. Steele that this is the summit of implementation, and we'll always ask about funding, from where funding would come and from where the opportunities would come, and this all is in the implementation summit that would achieve results for years to solve the problems of the world and the peoples at critical moments since World War II, and I'm appreciative to this opportunity. Do not forget to see the beauty of this country and the beauty of Sharm el-Sheikh. Thank you.
If you allow me,
If you would allow me, I would like to thank Dr. Mohieddin and Nigel for all the excellent work they did, and their commitment was very valuable. Let me tell you, as a president of COP27, that I appreciate all parties, and I feel the pulse of the community, and I encourage you to continue with the same enthusiasm, commitment, and strength, and this will give all parties the ability to be committed to their promises. And I appreciate the disappointment that Sophia talked about. What Sophia said leads to disappointment, and we need to shoulder the opportunity to prove Sophia to be wrong. Otherwise, she would come again and say similar things, and I hope that her voice would be heard by the different parties. I wanted to join this meeting, but I have to leave. Thank you very much. But I have to leave because I have another commitment. I ask the moderator that the climate champion team would stand while we have with us the minister to express our thanks to him. Thank you. Distinguished guest, Dr. Mohieddin, and now I will move on to the next section of this event. I would like to invite Ms. Shimara Nikrimaniaki. Shimara. And Racha, would you please join the podium, and Dr. Mohieddin, if you are able to join us. Thank you very much. and welcome to the stage.
لدي سؤال واحد
I have one
لكم
question
أنتم الاثنان
to both of you.
انعكاسا لما قدمه
Building upon what Dr. Muhyiddin presented and the invitation for climate action from the private sector and to achieve the ambitions focusing on sustainable livelihood and development. What do you think we should do, and how can we attract more funding to meet our needs and to meet the gap? For you, Shamara, how can we meet the promises and provide this funding? Can you hear me? As we all know, the targets we are achieving and the image in the developing countries and in response to climate action, we are achieving only 10% of what we should do and 1% of what we should do. We are, through the Alliance Net Zero, focus on the podiums of the different countries because we cannot attract funding even if this is going to accelerate over the coming 12 months with the increase of inflation and the energy crisis. Of course, there would be slowdown in funding because there are a lot of risks from which the whole world is suffering right now. What we are trying to do is to design a path for every country and to attract the governments of these countries to put the frameworks of the policies along with the MDPs regarding the guarantees needed, along with finance from the private sector and those who work on charitable organizations and the national and local partners to implement the projects. And I'm glad to be speaking about that. We started with India as the first initiative for funding in a state, and it was led by the private sector. And now we are moving on to Colombia and Indonesia with the initiative of funding climate change, and we have partnership with Vietnam, Indonesia, and South Africa. And this is the funding that was announced for South Africa. By the end of the day, we'll try to find state-to-state solutions and project-to-project solutions. And regarding the development of infrastructure in this country, we need to develop it to achieve this. Thank you, Shamara and Raj. From your viewpoint as humanitarian activists, thank you very much. I'm glad to be here with you today. And to reply to your question, the solution is building alliances and meeting the promises we made in these alliances. Sophia said early that she has a 14-year-old girl, and she asked what you're doing. Is it important, and why does it matter? I told her that we will follow up the results and the outcomes. I will give you an example. We tried to accelerate the energy transformation and energy transition. We know that since 2009, there were no real capital flows to the emerging and developing economies to support this Rockefeller Foundation last year, with 18 partners announced $11 million called Global Energy Alliance to finance those who cannot use solar energy. And after a year, we spent $340 million of this capital, and where there were a lot of partners, and we are working in 13 countries, and there will be 20 countries in the coming years. And this move has the ability to accelerate energy transition in the 81 countries that has 3.6 million individuals who cannot move forward due to their economies and non-accessibility to energy. We can tell them the world can achieve 1.5 degrees centigrade if the 81 countries are committed to developing through the use of renewable energy and the technology of renewable energy. This is one of the examples to give a promise, follow it up, and its achievements. And as Mohammed said before, this is just a small example. If we will succeed in expansion, we need to adopt initiatives like Bridge Down, the initiative you mentioned in your remark, as well as updating a financial system that was developed after World War II to support reconstruction in Europe, Western Europe, and to prevent the collapse of the economies during that crisis. We need to transform this system, and to do this, there is a plan to do that, and there would be hundreds of billions that would be spent to support developing economies. And this will be achieved by 2030. This is so interesting. This is a very quick growth in 1 year after COP26 and announcing the real change. There is momentum given to it through parties that are non-states. The financial systems right now are not working for the interest of developing countries. And we need to look at the infrastructure for green economy and how can the developing states benefit more from that. The continent receives 3% from climate finance. What can we do to make sure that we receive a bigger part of the cake, looking at 16% of the population of the world? Shimara, I will start with that and then go back to Shimara, because she plays a very important role in supporting cash flow. 3% of finance funding and 5% of the total foreign direct investments go to Africa. And if we are enjoying honesty, we are not going to receive a euro or dollar in Africa for climate actions. That's why we know that the real needs are trillions of dollars. I would like here to highlight one of the restrictions. More than 40 countries worldwide, most of which are in sub-Saharan Africa, suffer from difficult conditions. And when we talk about those economies, the private capital keeps away from these areas at the time of turbulences. That's why we all convened and developed the Bridgetown initiative. It's a direct initiative that supports the International Monetary Fund to analyze sustainability and to change its system so that people can take the suitable procedures for climate change. And it gives more liquidity, less cost, and more capital on debts for the countries through changing the system used by the World Bank as well as financial institutions when they see the crises from which individuals face, and according to the investments in the different countries. And there is also a principle regarding damage and loss that make us realize when there is a storm that disturbs the economy of Barbados, for example, then, as the Prime Minister said, we need to reinvest in the individuals and change the system and do arrangements for repaying the debt in a smooth manner. We can do this if we are designing for today. If we have done that, then there is no pretext. And if we do not do that, the coming generations, the youth, will hold us accountable. And now we are facing a totally different world. Thank you, Shimara. Unfortunately, there is no magic solution. With the International Financial Alliance, we have now 115 financial institutions and $30 trillion on this journey to achieve accomplishments. But these capitals did not flow to the developing economies and emerging ones, because they are responsible for saving the nations that want to deal with the risks, and they have very high risks in comparison to the return. So in these countries, they need to create structures to receive the flows of these capitals, like Bridgetown Initiative and others with MDBs, DFIs, to reduce exchange rate risks. The countries should realize their responsibility, and this is the policies agenda we will apply, and you can invest in this, and you can reduce the risks and receive capitals, because if the private sector is a partner, this achieves the capital flow. We are doing a lot, and we need to work with rich countries. Through our work in India, we look at the transition sectors that we need to work on, like recycling water, for example, as well as big vehicles, the infrastructure, hydrogen. These are all sectors that are priority for the government, and we need to implement these projects. And we are doing a lot through the Green Climate Fund to create a structure for funding and capital, and they are paying. If there is a structure, then the Green Fund would be able to increase this to 1.5 and take 13% of the emissions in India, and they will receive $2 billion to achieve this, and with this would support industry. And this is just a drop in the ocean for India. Your Excellency, President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi, the President of the Arab Republic.
Prime Minister of the Kingdom of Norway, distinguished guests. Today we mark a landmark step in green energy for Egypt, Africa, and with the technology introduced today, the world. وللمزيد عن مشروع اليوم والذي يأخذ مصر في
project that takes Egypt in the level of countries producing green energy, I would like to invite the Minister of Electricity to deliver his speech. In the name of Allah, the most merciful, the most compassionate, Your Excellency President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi, the President of the Republic, Mr. Jonas Gahr Støre, the Prime Minister of Norway, ladies and gentlemen, at the outset, I am glad and honored that you are attending opening the first phase of the production of green hydrogen in the economic zone of Suez Canal, which is considered to be one of the important events during COP27. The importance of this project lies in the fact that it is one of the first projects in the field of the production of green hydrogen from renewable energy, according to the plan set by the Ministry of Electricity and Renewable Energy in Egypt to make Egypt a strategic hub for the production of green hydrogen and its derivatives in the region. The Ministry started implementing this plan on a number of main elements in parallel: developing a national strategy for green hydrogen, providing the land needed for establishing renewable energy plants needed to implement experimental projects, one of which is this one. And we have signed a memorandum of understanding with a number of investors and developed the contracting documents needed for the projects with one of the international consulting offices. And we are targeting to sign the framework agreement with a number of investors who made the preliminary studies for the project during COP27. The President, distinguished guests, energy is considered to be one of the important means to achieve the aspirations of nations towards a better future, as it is the main engine to economic development and social development plans, and it achieves the aspirations of peoples that are directly linked to the provision of sources of energy. And on the background of political stability, we were able to take a number of steps and reform policies in the energy sector, and the fruit of that in the field of renewable energy was eliminating the electricity outage crisis and achieving safe reserve of electricity, as over the few previous years we have added more than 30 gigawatts of electricity. And the electricity sector took a number of steps to achieve full transition to a more sustainable phase for renewable energy and electricity that would provide electricity to meet the increasing need on energy and meet the needs of sustainable development in Egypt. The issue of energy with all its dimensions is at the heart and mind of the state of Egypt, realizing the importance of this file that is considered to be the main pillar for the future of stability and development in Egypt, and it is a matter of national security for the great people of Egypt. Egypt is rich in the sources of renewable energy, and it covers mainly wind and solar energy, and the total expected hours are about 347 gigawatts of wind energy according to the Wind Atlas, and there are great potentials of solar energy that reaches about 647 gigawatts. Consequently, the Supreme Council for Energy in Egypt in the year 2016 approved the strategy of renewable energy for 2035 based on the optimum use of renewable energy to achieve the balance of energy needed in Egypt, and thus Egypt can generate more than 42% of the renewable energy in the year 2035. And green hydrogen also enjoys great importance as it is a promising source of energy in the near future. And right now a ministerial council is working on studying the future of hydrogen in Egypt and looking for all possible alternatives to generate and use hydrogen, taking into consideration international experiences. We will update the energy strategy in Egypt to cover green hydrogen as a source of energy. The project of production of green hydrogen we are inaugurating today expresses the attempt of Egypt to make use of the momentum given to green hydrogen and accelerating the projects on it worldwide. Your Excellency the President, distinguished guests, let me mention some information and data about this project. The project is implemented through an alliance of Scatec Norwegian company Fortegrut, Orascom, Egypt Sovereign Fund. The capacity of the project, 100 megawatts of green hydrogen, renewable energy of the project, 205 wind energy, 700 megawatts of solar energy. And it is in the industrial zone in Ain al-Sukhna, affiliate to the economic zone of Suez Canal. And the national electricity network would be used to transport the produced hydrogen. And the Ministry of Electricity, through the support of the President and the Cabinet and relevant authorities, took all the permits needed and gave the facilitations and incentives and drafted the contracts of the project, and they were signed in a record time. So we inaugurate the first phase of this project today in the presence of His Excellency the President and his honorable guests. Thank you all, distinguished guests, for your due listening, and peace be upon you. And now the speech of His Excellency President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi, the President of the Arab Republic of Egypt. In the name of Allah, the most merciful, the most compassionate. Your Excellency Mr. Jonas Gahr Støre, the Prime Minister of Norway, ladies and gentlemen. At the outset, I'm glad and honored to participate with you in inaugurating the first phase of the first project for the production of green hydrogen in the economic zone of Suez Canal on the sidelines of COP27. I would like to seize this opportunity to express our appreciation to Mr. Jonas Gahr Støre, the Prime Minister of Norway, and to hail the leading role played by Norway in confronting climate change and dealing with its effects. And here we see political commitment on part of Norway through supporting the climate change actions and achieve fair transition towards green economy. And the best example to that is our meeting today to inaugurate the first phase of the project of the production of green hydrogen. And it represents an opportunity for consultation and coordination with a large group of effective countries in the efforts of facing climate change and to mobilize international efforts regarding different topics we are negotiating during the COP meetings. Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, in light of the international accelerated interest in renewable energy and improving the production of electricity from sources of renewable energy that coincides with the due concern given to climate change and the increasing prices of fossil fuel, and within the framework of benefiting from the natural resources of Egypt, in particular sources of renewable energy, in the year 2016 we adopted the strategy of renewable and sustainable energy in Egypt up till the year 2035. And it includes maximizing the share of renewable energy in the energy of the country to reach about 42% by the year 2035. And the strategy of renewable energy in Egypt is in line with the strategy of sustainable development, Egypt's Vision 2030, and the National Strategy for Climate Change 2050, and the international 17 goals for sustainable development. And this major project for the production of green hydrogen in the economic zone of Suez Canal is considered to be one of the most important projects. This is one of the most important geographical locations worldwide, and this would enable us to export green hydrogen to Europe and other continents. Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, Egypt took a number of measures to enhance benefiting from its great capital of renewable energy through encouraging the private sector to invest in the field of establishing, operating, and owning electricity generating plants produced from solar energy and wind energy. And Egypt is keen on removing all obstacles facing these investments and putting a roadmap to increase those investments over the coming years. The private sector is enjoying great confidence in the investment field in Egypt, and I can tell you that there are a number of projects that are being implemented in the field of electricity generation from solar and wind energy, and this emphasizes the ability of renewable energy to attract foreign investments. And it emphasizes the role of the national institutions in creating an investment environment that enjoys low risks and good interaction with the financing institutions and funding partners. And of course, electricity networks and electricity connections enhances energy security. Thus, Egypt is effectively participating in all the projects of regional electricity connections, and we are working on electricity connectivity between Egypt and Greece, as Egypt would be a bridge for energy between Africa and Europe. And it's worth noting that electricity connectivity between Africa and Europe would enable us to assimilate the great electricity capacities that would be produced from the sources of renewable energy in Africa. And Egypt is keen on supporting the efforts of African states to access clean energy from renewable sources, in particular in light of what the African countries are enjoying. And we expect that Egypt would be one of the main access to transfer clean energy to Europe. Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, all these efforts show that Egypt is seeking to take effective steps towards transition to a sustainable development model in line with the efforts of protecting the environment and facing climate change, not only because we believe in the rights of the coming generations for a better future, but also because it realizes the fact that green transition is a promising opportunity to achieve economic development in a number of vital sectors. And at the end of my speech, I renew my thanks to you, and I would like to emphasize that Egypt won't save any efforts to encourage investments in green energy projects and green fuel, as the green transition is a promising opportunity to achieve economic development in Egypt. We commend all the efforts for the success of COP27 to come up with successful recommendations capable of highlighting the unity of the international community against this threat that we cannot overcome except through joint actions and effective implementation. Thank you, and peace be upon you.
And now with a speech from His Excellency Prime Minister Gar Stur.
President Sisi, Excellencies, Ministers, ladies and gentlemen, dear friends. Let me start by stating two facts.
Let me start by mentioning two facts. I would like to welcome you that green hydrogen would play an important role in reducing carbon emissions to zero. This is a truth. And also, Egypt, as a country in North Africa, has a great opportunity to be pioneer in this field and to achieve a green transition because it has a lot of sources of renewable energy, and this would reduce the carbon emissions, of course. So we'd like to thank you very much for this project. And we thank the political leadership in Egypt for this, and we are opening new horizons for the use of green hydrogen, and we are trying to achieve more opportunities, and this would have a positive impact on climate change actions and development. We are all aware that the President in his opening speech said that it is prime time to use green hydrogen and to achieve energy transition. There are a number of entities, a number of elements that influence this transition. We discussed this project, and it has enjoyed great attention since January up till this conference COP27, and we wish that this project would become a reality. And this is a project that's being implemented by a number of companies, so I would like to extend thanks to all the companies that are working on the implementation of this project. And of course, the government has strong ambition to use this green hydrogen, and the government of Egypt is achieving really green transition, and this adoption of production of green hydrogen is one of the steps of this transition, and it enjoys great importance as it is one of the first steps towards green hydrogen. through exports. Egypt will support transition in the field of green hydrogen and the reduction of gas emissions. Yesterday there was a session on this topic, and this is related to our aspirations of the use of green hydrogen, and the European Union has a great experience in this field. And we have a number of objectives to meet, and we are trying to see how can we meet them. I'm so proud of all the measures that are being made in this field of renewable and sustainable energy, and I'm so proud of the efforts made by Egypt, because it had put it at the level of countries that took practical, realistic steps in this context. And there is a great opportunity for investments in this field in Egypt. And there is an opportunity also for entrepreneurship, not only in Egypt, but in Africa and the whole world. And we believe that Scotec project in Egypt would create a lot of opportunities in the field of green hydrogen. And we are working with other relevant authorities on developing the economy of the region and producing also green ammonia. And this enables us to develop the economy on the long term. And this creates also opportunities for training. It creates job opportunities. And the main players in the field of renewable and sustainable energy are working now all on green hydrogen, and they are cooperating worldwide. This enables us all to use green hydrogen, and we're looking forward to discussions and dialogues with Egypt regarding green hydrogen and how it can be used in Egypt. And we are looking forward to more cooperation after the end of the proceedings of COP27, and we're looking forward to supporting this partnership.
We have produced the following video as a token of
We will show you this video as a token of cooperation between Egypt and Norway.
The world is at a breaking point. We need to change direction, a change of perspective, a new narrative. The climate crisis demands new solutions. We can create a change for the better. The future is green, and the future is happening now in Africa, in Egypt. Africa is already ideally located for renewable energy. Egypt is taking a driver's seat. But the green transition requires more. We must move from green power to green fuels. Let's change the planet's future. Let's change our ways. As part of this change, Fertiglobe took the bold decision to decarbonize its global asset base by using water and renewable power to replace natural gas. Egypt was a natural starting point on this journey due to the abundance of renewable resources, a robust infrastructure, and the presence of the Suez Canal as a future hub for green fuels. To do so, Fertiglobe, along with Scatec, the global renewable industry leader from Norway, Orascom Construction, the engineering and construction pioneer, the Sovereign Fund of Egypt, and the Egyptian Ministry of Electricity and Renewable Energy partnered together to develop Egypt Green Hydrogen. The project is being built by Orascom Construction using Egyptian engineers and state-of-the-art technology combined with Scatec's expertise in renewable energy. And today, Egypt is poised to be a global green energy pioneer with one of the world's largest green hydrogen and one of the world's first integrated green ammonia projects, an unparalleled achievement for the African continent. Located in Ain Sokhna in the Suez Canal Economic Zone, Egypt Green Hydrogen is the first strategic step to facilitate the export of green hydrogen globally. making Egypt the one-stop shop solution for a key global decarbonization challenge and placing Africa as the future hub of green fuel production. By launching at COP27, the Egypt Green Hydrogen Project is definitive proof of Africa's green energy leadership to the world. Egypt, pioneering the fuels of the future.
نستأذن سيادتك يا فندم في
Your
افتتاح
Excellency,
المرحلة
we'll inaugurate now phase 1 of the project of green hydrogen production in the economic Suez Canal zone.
مفتوحة كده خلاص هسيب
This marks the beginning of a new era in green hydrogen fuel production.
هي البداية.
This is the beginning of green hydrogen production in Suez Canal economic zone. Your Excellency President Sisi, Your Excellency Prime Minister of Norway, Your Excellencies, our partners, ladies and gentlemen, time has changed, and of course the change would be slow. If we look at the sustainable development goals and environmental goals, we'll find that there would be a reduction of emissions, and we are looking for alternatives to energy like this project, the production of green hydrogen enhanced by renewable energy until we can reach other sectors. And as for our efforts along with the partners, we're moving forward in this project, which is considered to be the biggest in Africa. And regarding climate change, energy, and economic development here in Egypt, we are looking for the future. The future starts now. Technology is available here in Egypt at suitable prices, and there is also the available funding and the capital for investing here in Egypt. And we need solutions to decipher some things related to green hydrogen. There are some logistical aspects that needs further development, especially regarding the climate laws that would facilitate our steps to achieve this objective. This is an opportunity for Egypt and Africa to take a pioneer role in this sector, in particular regarding the hydrogen market. And we, along with our partners, we will explore new objectives and new opportunities for Egypt and the whole African continent. Egypt is ready to take the pioneer and administrative role here due to the competitive prices as well as the area and land allocation, in addition to being the green corridor for hydrogen. This helps us with producing energy at affordable prices here in Egypt. And also Norway started working on exporting the machines and equipment needed. This project would enable us to use the available opportunities and to have a real partnership, as partnerships are very important for the success of this energy transition process. Partnerships and working together are the value added. So I would like to thank the government of Egypt for giving us this opportunity. And I would like to say that regarding electricity and renewable energy, I would like to thank the Minister of Egypt, Mr. Arya, and the Ministry of Finance for facilitating the procedures regarding the customs. So we would like to thank the whole team from the Egyptian government. I would like to thank Mr. Mandelian, and we'd like to thank you all for this project. I would like also to thank the team from Norway, represented by Ambassador Edward. I would like also to thank all our partners here, all our production partners, and Orascom Construction, and other companies from the side of Egypt. And I would like to tell the whole world that here we are achieving the real transition through green hydrogen, and it would be accessible here in Egypt. This project wouldn't have been implemented on the ground without your support, and there is a great opportunity for production due to launching it during COP27. We are so glad with the support we received, and we are happy with all the partners, GMF and all the other partners. Thank you all for your support and your presence. Regarding the financial support and the experts for this project, this is considered to be the first of its kind that is supported by good financing institutions as well as guarantees. And these are all main elements for the success of this project. And last but not least, I would like to thank the whole team with us here. Mohammed Amer, the leader of the team. If it was not for their efforts, we wouldn't have been able to achieve this. And we'd like to say that this success was done through the support and coordination between everybody, governments and businessmen. And I think that this is so important to achieve this success. Thank you. And now, Mr. from CIO. Thank you. I would like to start by extending thanks and appreciation to His Excellency President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi for this vision. He provided us with all support, and we have all one objective that we are working on, which is saving the environment and the planet. I would like to extend thanks to the ministers and the representatives of the different ministries celebrating with us this event. And this is a strategic cooperation between both countries. And we have an integrated production program, and we are providing all the support from the different partners. And this is considered to be the biggest of its kind in Middle East and North Africa. Egypt and Africa are the suitable places for such projects of green hydrogen production, and this is a green opportunity due to the availability of land sources of renewable energy as well as manpower. And there is also a strategic zone like Ain Sokhna and the Suez Canal Economic Zone. And of course, this would be achieved through cooperation between different partners, SCATEC partners, as well as the other partners who are here with us. And we are looking forward to more steps on this journey. And also, green hydrogen would be the longest journey. And all the efforts right now focus on building the main steps. And this is a very important part regarding the development of infrastructure. And the infrastructure here in Egypt and the capabilities support the production of renewable energy and green hydrogen. And during the phase of construction, this is very important, and it would be a starting point. And we consider that launching this project during COP27 is so important, because this shows that we are working on implementation and we are achieving energy transition through providing clean energy. And this couldn't have been done without the support of the government in Egypt and all ministries, the Prime Minister, the Ministry of Electricity and Renewable Energy, Ministry of Development and International and economic development, and we are accelerating the processes to finish this project. And we are supporting also the efforts of Dr. Shatan Al-Jaber, who is here with us and is considered to be one of our supporters. And we will continue working with the governments as well as the different partners to develop the suitable framework to implement the projects and to increase the production of green hydrogen. And we are trying to strike the balance between the supply and demand on green hydrogen. And we discussed this morning the cooperation with our partners. Thank you, and I look forward to meeting you again in the future to see the impact of this clean and renewable energy on the world. And we're taking the steps and we'll see the results. Thank you. Thank you all for honoring us by being here. Thank you, Your Excellency, President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi and Prime Minister of Norway. Thank you.